I guess are we talking about studio photography? Right.
Yeah, you're either by an event company or PR company or band or festival. But I was just going to say I shot a theatre production the other day, and I was just going to do some shots for myself, but the other photographer didn't turn up, and I ended up covering him as a favour. Next thing you know, they're using all my photos for PR or press, and I said, oh look, how about I get 5 of your actors to throw $30 at me? That's $150. It's not much money, but it's going to charge $500 for it. And then the next thing you know, they complain, it's like, oh, we can get the other guy for $125, but he's a student.
Yeah, so this is my question. I'm sure a lot of people here are wondering.
To haggle as well.
But that's also the point where you have to say, hang on, you just approached me to ask me to do this when the other guy was so unreliable as to not show up, and now you're complaining about what I'm charging? That's the point where I would put my foot down and basically try and find, excuse my French, a polite way to say fuck you.
Well,
is the industry
because as you said, you're paying, like you just...
The photography is the first thing they love to cut the budget on. They're like, yep, we don't need photography.
I know, but it's ironically it's the thing they generally rely the most on for advertising.
Yeah.
Well, has the industry changed? That's my question. I'm wondering with the ease of digital distribution of images and the fact that people can kind of pull things off social media and run them uncredited, has the whole industry kind of changed since, I guess, when people were working in film and it was harder to get access to those copyright images? And I feel like we're going to discuss this at some point, so I'd like to talk about that a bit now.
I just want to ask a question to my fellow panelists. How many of us here have had a photo stolen by somebody and put on social media without credit?
I've had it put on the side of the bus. On the side of the bus.
And how fucking frustrating is it?
It's pretty bad.
Just put a really shitty watermark over the whole thing. I'll never use it.
But then I'll never want to use it either.
Side of the bus. Did you see the pixels like this big?
There's actually a quick photo shoot with Costa Zoo Boxer.
Sure.
I just put a little bit of extra effort on. I was putting these panels and these things, and you can hear like this, and like 3 months later, I'm in the city, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's Costa Zoo. I was hanging out with him. I spent like half an hour photoshopping that guy.
And I was in Thailand, and I saw a girl wearing a T-shirt with one of my photos on.
What was the image?
It was a shoot I did with a girl. She had like a cigarette in her mouth and smoke going everywhere. I'm like, cool, that's my photo. Yeah.
I was another question regarding this is one that's more like this. For example, when you're talking about how you distribute your photos online, so if you've got a website and you try to promote this presence online and you use social media, some people use Instagram, or that sort of thing, this is more and more that people can take your photos and do.
Just don't do it as high. Don't do like 1,000 px. Just do like 600 px and put a neat little watermark.
Well, these days you can't even get away with that because things are high def.
I think this might be a good point to bring Jarrad into the discussion, because Jarrad has got an incredible social media following, and I presume you might say that pushing your work out through social media and not reining it in, not putting watermarks on, might actually benefit your career. So perhaps you have a good perspective.
In my case, definitely, I push a lot of stuff out on social media. I put a lot of my images out. They end up, I shoot for people like Passenger, so as soon as I put anything out, it's going to be on Tumblr, reblogged by other people, not by me. It's just going to be everywhere. So I just have to really weigh that up and work out whether that's worth it to me. And at the moment, it is. It is worth it to me to put out an image knowing that it is going to be stolen and distributed everywhere, and I'm not really going to get the benefit out of it. But social media is kind of how I grew my following and how I grew my career. Is out of just working with musicians and getting a lot of being interactive and building community around my work. So it's always a tricky one, putting things on Facebook and Instagram, just knowing you're going to go to other places. But
is that considered the new Palladium, really? I mean, you're working as a commercial photographer and you seem to be making a living and be happy as a person and not like eating last week's baked beans and stuff. So Perhaps that's the thing now. We just have to kind of deal with the idea that that's happening.
Yeah, maybe. I probably have a different view than some of the other guys, but I'm pretty chill with where my photos go. You know, I don't really mind that much if they just go somewhere without my name, and I'm just happy. You kind of balance things out, you know.
On that note, I make my money by people paying me to shoot stuff. I don't make my money through print sales or from selling images after a shoot. So the more my images are out there, the more it benefits me, because the more likely clients are going to say, oh, let's hire that guy to do our shoot. So once I've done a shoot, I've already been paid for it. And a lot of the time I build into the cost the fact that they've got really wide usage rights. So to me, it doesn't matter. I make my money through assignments, so I'm not losing it by it getting published far and wide.
If you spend too much energy worrying about people using your imagery, you're not going to focus that back into your photography. You just let it go. Yeah. People want to use it.
It's nice that they want to use it, I suppose.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, there's like, for example, your shot of the Bondi hipsters.
Yeah.
I mean, that was everywhere on the internet for about 2 days.
Have you guys seen the Kim Kardashian Bondi hipsters? That's Pat.
I was going to ask, was that you?
Yeah, so we shot that Friday Arvo. Christian called me up that morning and go, hey man, I've got an idea.
I'll grab it, because maybe some people at the back can't really see.
Well, that's the one we did with Miranda Kerr where we ripped it off. I shot all the stills on their new TV show called Soulmates, so all the unit stills are mine. They're just good dudes, and I shoot a lot of their sort of stuff. It's pretty funny. So we did like 4 photos, like Miranda Kerr like laying down being all sexual, and I just got Christian with his... I saw a lot of dick that day.
Yeah, like heaps of dick in this one here.
I actually had to Photoshop his knob out. Yeah. So yeah, the Kim Kardashian one, we oiled Nick up, which is the other Bondi hipster guy. And yeah, he called me up in the morning, we're like, let's do it. So I got into my studio, we bought a brown roll of paper from the front, just got heaps of oil, lubed him up, got the lighting, like I looked at the photo online, I tried to get the lighting the same, like matched it all up. I'm not a studio photographer, by the way, this is my way of learning. This is my test photography, really.
This is your way of learning.
It's a good way of learning, man. Like,
yeah, you got to do what you love.
Having fun.
And yeah, so we shot it that afternoon, got it out in about 2 hours. So it was out Friday afternoon Sydney time, and that would have been about when the UK and the US was waking up. Daily Mail UK got it, Huffington Post got it, and It's had like 10 million views so far. I didn't get paid for it as well, it's a free thing. I did it because I loved it. No, I think they just took it all off Facebook. They just like scoop it up, but yeah, it got 18,000 likes before it got taken off by Facebook. Due to male nudity, I assume.
That's amazing.
You're not allowed to have a man with his genitals tucked in, apparently, on Facebook.
That is sexist.
Yeah, damn. Yeah, but that blew up, and it was my name in the metadata, so I was stoked just to have credit.
Yeah, nice.
And it was fun.
I was going to say, on the side of Photo.co, there's a featured artist called Diego Partel, and he's a photographer in Barcelona, and he started up with this project called Zoo Portraits. You might have seen it, but they're like everything from koala and then he shot a local zoo and put them in human suits that would, put them in outfits that would suit the animal's personality. Anyway, the thing is, he did this project just to get some publicity, and it went just totally crazy.
Yeah.
He said, I was down in Melbourne the other week, so like a shop half full of all this stuff, mugs and t-shirts, and he's gone from I'm doing this project to get publicity free, and it just went stratospheric. He's made all this money from it, and he's got all this publicity. He's constantly being talked about. That's another way of using the internet to benefit you, even though he's doing it for free, and now he's reaping the rewards much later.
I guess all of you guys have come from that event, from an event background, but we've been talking over the last 3 kind of chats here about things that are essentially the studio or concept photography. How did your initial training in live music and events set you up to be deciding to be shooting in studio? What are the comparable skills?
Just grasping light. It's all about controlling light and how you use light. So if you can control unpredictable light on a music stage where you've got no control over anything that's happening, and then you go into a studio where you have complete control over all your light, it's sort of like a breeze. You're like, wow, I can change the amount of light that's coming out of the thing. So it's an easy transition, but you've got to learn all the technical side of lighting as well, and just a whole, like doing studio photography is just trial and error. You've really just got to put yourself in there and try to experiment. So like when I first started doing photography, I was just doing long exposures of the stars. And you're like, oh, so that's what happens if you play around with that setting. Right. So it's, just get in there. If you've got a friend who's got a studio, go in there and just shoot. Or assist. Assisting is the best way to learn. Just go to them, carry stuff, or make them coffee. Just watch what they're doing, be a sponge, and watch. Assisting is amazing if you ever want to learn. If anyone wants to assist me, I've got lots of nude shoots happening.
So I definitely have to say that's right. Like I learnt more about studio lighting assisting Dan than I did anywhere else. And that was a lot of carrying. That battery pack of yours is brutal.
It's mainly what assisting is, carrying guns.
Yeah. But don't be afraid to play around. Like I never went to school for photography either. Everything I know.
How many people here did go to school?
Did any? Just
no.
Just here.
You went to POFA, but not for photography necessarily. So yeah, right.
I used to work at Bunnings Warehouse, so there's that. Oh, really? I got fired, but anyway.
You guys could date.
Sup, baby?
All right, now I want to find out, I don't know, this is a general question, but I thought it would be worth asking. What, in your opinion, makes a brilliant event photo? Like, think of the best photo you've taken. What are all the elements that are working in concert there to turn that into a photo that you're extremely happy with? I mean, if you can remember one time.
Straight up spontaneity. Something that you look at the photo after, and it goes back to what got me passionate about it in the first place was looking at a photo and going, if somebody was there, having them look at the photo and go, man, I was there and this was a fucking sick thing to be at. Or if somebody wasn't there, like that feeling of FOMO of, oh man, I missed out by not going to this. And for instance, I'm going to reference Pat's photo here that was taken at Beach Road, which I remember when you first sent that to me, and I was like, man, this is a fucking sick photo.
The Upper Science, Dan, the drummer, spitting up. But on the opposite of spontaneity, that was like, I've seen them play before and I knew he was going to do that.
But
I was like set up for it.
I've only seen Upper Science a couple of times, but you've shot them before and you, but at the same time, that is a fucking sick photo.
It's this one in case.
But there's also guys, from the crowd, that guy on the right, the guy on the right sort of jumped on stage and sort of made it. He's not in a band. He's like,
but that's a great photo, and like this one that I've shot of the Jezebels, I know that Hayley likes to jump around. So I know that she loves to jump around. So I kind of knew that was coming, but at the same time, it was just pray it was going to happen. But the spontaneity of things happening like that, like crowd surfing, things like that, you got to watch for it. And part of what keeps me in this industry, even though currently I'm going through a bit of a state of flux with my career, is being able to look at something amazing and capture something amazing. It's like what got me into it 11 years ago now was the idea that we didn't have, the internet was not a huge thing, for instance, when my inspiration book was published. So to have such an iconic band as U2 captured in a way that we now see all the time in the photography that we do. But back then, it was fan magazines and you'd queue for days to meet your favourite band, and they were idols, and this book brought them down to a human level that made them very relatable and very likeable. And now we've come 360 degrees where we can now access the entirety of human knowledge in our smartphone, and we use it to pick fights with strangers on the internet and look at photos of cats, which is another argument altogether. But we spend so much time hooked into the internet, hooked into our smartphones, that we miss what's going on around us. So if I can take a photo that makes somebody go, this was an amazing gig, I was there, but I missed this, and I'm glad to see this photo, or if somebody wasn't there, to go, man, I wish I'd gone, then I'm still doing something right.
Sorry to jump in there, but I think when you're shooting a gig or an event, what I love is when you can get the artist and the crowd in the same frame.
Definitely.
So Pat's one there has got the drummer and a fan dancing. Like, one of the ones that I picked of my own is the National. They were playing on the Opera House steps. You can't really see it in the print, but in the background you can catch a glimpse of the sails. You've got the audience in there, you've got the artist. And same with the 30 Seconds to Mars ones, you've got fans behind him dancing with the artist. If you can get both the artist and the crowd, I feel like that's the dream, because that captures everything. So just the artist playing on stage, that rarely will tell you about the event, because to be honest, that's the same shot that will happen every night of that tour. But if you can capture a little bit of the crowd, a little bit of the venue, and the artist together, that is about, you can capture the event in one photo.
It gives the shot more context, you know, makes you feel like you're there.
Yeah.
That's very nice and romantic. I would like to hear from, just before we do more questions, is there anyone else who is doing photography as a profession who's on my panel have more to say about what they think makes a good event photo?
I was going to say just raw energy. We were chatting before, those photographs that Daniel took were taken at the encore.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And it's like my Crystal Castles photograph, same thing, with the eye. That was, you know, the last track. And the ironic thing about band photography is they let you shoot between 90 seconds with Beyonce. Because she doesn't want any sweat photographs, apparently.
She's perfect, that's why.
Yeah, so you get up to 90 seconds to shoot someone, or you get 1, 2, or 3 tracks at the beginning. But if you're lucky, like you're working with a band or a venue or you've got permission, you can shoot the whole thing, but you get a lot of your best shots at the end of the gig, and everyone in the crowd is sweaty, and you know there's a real atmosphere. Everyone's in the room. At the beginning of a gig, everyone's kind of just walking out.
I was going to say, just because some of these shots of Kiera's here, which are clearly the closing sections of Australian hip-hop model, and other moments, really do have a lot of drama because someone blew a bunch of confetti in there as well.
Yeah, they save all the pyro and everything for the end, and it's when the magic happens.
And so why don't they let you do...
They should do the last 3 songs, I think. Yeah. But it's so funny now with DJs, they're like, first 3 songs and no flash. I'm like, why are they mixing their songs?
Even DJs.
It's an old school rule that shouldn't be around anymore.
The no flash thing I can understand, and I always will understand. Like, it's nothing frustrates me more than when I'm shooting a gig that doesn't necessarily have a photo pick rule, and someone is shooting with the flash, and it's just the most incredibly frustrating thing because it's, one, your photos aren't going to turn out that well anyway, especially when you're shooting with a flash. And 2, it's distracting for the artist, it's distracting for other people.
I'll always have a flash on me though if I'm shooting in the pit, because if they jump down and they start crowd surfing, I'll just light them.
You got shot there, Pat was with a flash.
Yeah. But I toured with Flume last year. I did his whole tour, and he's like just so young and reserved and really shy, and that just totally shows in your photography. When you're trying to shoot someone and they're like really nervous, it's really hard, especially when he's on stage by himself. He just sort of does this one sort of thing with his hand. It's like, come on, man, change it up. And I remember we were in Brisbane, and he's like, Pat, should I do something different for this? Like, what should I do? I'm like, okay, at the breakdown of this track, tell everyone to bring out their phones and their lighters and everything. And it was a sea of the river stage there, so it's like an amphitheatre. So it was a sea of lights, and just made the best photo. So I directed the act. What to do?
Like you needed it.
Yeah. So it turned out really good. So sometimes...
Yeah, but Harley is genuinely a really reserved dude as opposed to Chris. Chris from What So Not So. Like, Chris is the other end of the spectrum. He will do dumb shit for the sake of doing dumb shit and consequently fractured his spine doing so. How long ago was that? Like a year?
Yeah. He's been DJing forever.
Yeah, but it's like the opposite end of that is like when you're shooting an artist who you know is going to do crazy shit, you have to be ready to anticipate that and be ready to jump a barrier or something to follow them to get that photo. So,
like Blue Juice, they're crazy, huh?
Yeah, those winners.
Crazy. I'll tell you what makes you more crazy, not being able to sing. That'll make you act real crazy. Because you know you have to sell that shit somehow. Yes?
You saying about good things with band photographing. I got James Rain the other week with Rich Hotel. And I've just been so intimidated by someone looking at me the whole time, staring down at me. He even asked me after the first song, are you here as a photographer or the pub? In front of the whole crowd, it was packed. And then the guitarist was staring at me the whole night. I moved away because it was just so bad. And you had to have, he didn't want his photo taken, obviously. I was there.
I've worked out the older the act, the less photographs they want. It's like, I've been shooting Beastie Boys for years, and like they've gone from guys that have got giant penises on stage and they're totally crazy to almost conservative guys, and their hats have got lower, and they start wearing sunglasses, and their collars start coming up. Less photos, less, like, okay, you've got like 2 minutes, and that's it, get out.
Yeah. I wonder why that is.
He questioned someone about video on a song. He said, what are you going to do with it? You know it's going to sound crap.
That sounds like, unfortunately, that guy's not really living in the world that we live in currently at all. It's like, you're not going to be able to convince people to put their phones away. But my interest is actually, you are now competing with the generation of people who have fairly high quality cameras in their pockets. Is there something that you can do other than just be awesome to distinguish yourself from them? And what do you think, I mean, has the landscape changed? I actually would really like to talk to you guys about this, because I feel like there's going to be a fair few young people here who are working out how to make the transition from shooting really nice photos on their iPhone of things to then shooting on SLR and then making it a professional thing. Is that something that concerns you? Do you worry that you won't be able to make money, or that there's... Oh, gentleman at the back.
I think it's a good thing. Like, sometimes people feel threatened. Like, oh, people have their phones out, they're going to take photos, but I'm here like an SLR. I think it's good because, like, it can also increase the competition. So if they're taking good photos and you're at the front with a better camera, like, you would think that you might have to up your game, perhaps, you know?
Definitely. The more people there are shooting, the more we have to try to be better than them. So it's just going to create a better product at the end of the day.
And it's unavoidable at this point anyway. Nobody's like putting their iPhone away on ethical grounds.
It's definitely not something you can avoid, but at the same time, it reaches a point where it does get frustrating, because it's like, okay, yes, maybe I'm being paid to be there. On the flip side, they're paying to be there, and they're spending so much time doing this that they're not enjoying the event that they're at. Like earlier this year, a record label I work for brought out Brudinski and Gesaffelstein, and we put on a show at the Metro that was absolutely mind-blowing. Were you? Did you come to that? I can't remember.
If I was, I wouldn't remember.
But it was an absolutely mind-blowing show. For anyone who doesn't know, Brudinski and Gesaffelstein are two techno artists from France, and they produce some incredibly hard-hitting, amazing-sounding music, which, if you're into that sort of thing, is great. But I was there, I was being paid to be there. I was shooting for the label, and it was my job to be out in the crowd with a camera. That's not to say I didn't enjoy myself, I didn't put it down for a while and have a dance, but so many times I would be out in the crowd shooting, and I would run into people who were so busy taking photos on their iPhone that they weren't enjoying the event that they were paying $80 to be at. Which I honestly can't understand that. If I'm paying to go to an event, maybe I'll pick up my phone and snap a couple of photos, but you're paying to be there, you're paying to enjoy it, and at what point are you going to look at those photos on your phone that maybe are not... Yeah, but it's also not, they're not going to be great photos. Like, you're going to snap a couple of really grainy, low-light shots.
Their friends don't really care, I mean...
Yeah. It's like, you can bloody well say, oh man, I went to this gig on the weekend.
Yeah.
But it's
it's a shitty thing, but it's not going to go away. The camera's going to get better in these. They're going to take better low-light photos, and it's going to be around for a long time. It sucks,
but it's just like, don't spend 90% of your time at a gig taking photos on your iPhone for bragging rights.
Can we do a seminar on that, based around that?
Yeah.
Where do you consider the line of when you are professional? Like, if photos can be as good as anybody else's, is, getting printed?
If you get paid, you're a professional.
Yeah.
Professional, but is it not to do with quality of photos as well?
Yes and no. Somebody once said to me, you can call yourself a professional when the bulk of your income comes from what you're doing, comes from this. And the bulk of my income does currently come from this. But even though, like I said, I'm dialing back and I need to take a break just for my own health, I still consider myself a professional photographer in 2 months when I'm not shooting as much, because it's what I'm most passionate about and it's what I've built a reputation on. So, yeah.
So you can be someone who's had a past photography career but then go and do something else and no longer a professional photographer.
If you still consider yourself a photographer, if you're still planning on picking it up, if you still pick up your camera and shoot something as a professional, then I still think you have the right to call yourself a professional photographer.
People are paying for consistency. You turn up.
Yeah.
They hire you as a photographer, and they expect a level of photography, and they don't expect, like with a phone, you might come out with like 2 or 3 good shots, but like they want like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 great shots.
Sometimes more.
Yeah, you get that client. Where's my 300 great photos?
Yeah, that's what being a professional is, being able to, or to turn up to a gig where there are no photos to be had, and you make it happen so it looks good.
like it. It's real world shit.
Yeah.
Question. How long were you guys working for free before your career started to take off?
It was like 1.5 to 2 years for me.
That was about 5 years for me, or more probably.
Can everyone hear that?
6 months.
That's a bit of a blurry one because I still do stuff for free now. You know, if I just want to, I'll just
Yeah,
go
I'm
and,
kind of in the same boat as, but it's like, again, sometimes you do take gigs that don't pay, like maybe my expenses will get covered, or maybe I have to get myself there because it's worth shooting, because you want to shoot it. Other times there will be gigs where I sit there and go, man, I don't even want to shoot this for money. But it might be you're doing somebody a favour by taking that gig, so it varies.
I think you just got to...
Judgment call?
Yeah,
a
you
lot
got
of
to take a
judgment
balance
calls.
within yourself about what you're happy with doing for free, what you're happy to do. It's more, for me, it's definitely more of a lifestyle now. Photography, I do shoots that I get paid for. Sometimes I don't love it, but it's a job, and we all do things we don't love. All creative people I know face the same dilemma about working for free and balancing that with getting paid work. A lot of my musician friends do cover gigs, you know, on a weekend, you know, in between shows. So you just have to, you know, just be at peace with yourself. And if you're shooting things for free and you're not happy doing it, and it's not getting you anywhere,
that's when
then
something needs to change.
That's when you need to be looking at, oh, well, why am I even doing this? So in conclusion, I still shoot stuff for free just because I want to. I'll go down, my mate's in town playing a show, I'll just go down and shoot it. I'm not getting anything out of it, I'm just hanging out, whatever. But on the other side of things, I'll shoot a commercial gig, you know, the next day, and you just balance it all out.